let me call upon the Mr. Lee Jung-bin, Seoul the Science and Technology College.
Hi, my name is Jung-bin, and I have a question to Toru Nakajima, the president of BC Korea. Here's my question. For a successful collaboration between multinational corporations, how can Japan set the global standards for the protection of their intellectual property rights?
Well, I mentioned about the importance of IPP protection, intellectual property protection. As a matter of fact, it is happening. Japan, Korea, Japan, US, those three authorities are meeting regularly, exchanging information. I do believe that there was a tremendous improvement in the last 2 or 3 years as far as the law regulation are concerned. The most important thing is how to execute that. And the execution side, we have two sides. One is regulator side, the other one is the company side. While regulation sides are putting a lot of laws, the company side also react toward the regulations. The most important thing in this area, I do believe, is a compliance issue. If the companies are not complying with the rules, or trying always to find out the way to avoid the rule need to become harsher and firmer. If the companies are following the rules, we self-govern ourselves, then it makes things much easier. I'm not saying that Korean companies are not applying to the rules, but the intellectual property issue is new to everybody throughout the world. The 21st century is a century of compliance. 20th century was more like antitrust was the issue. The 21st century compliance, why it is important? Because we have more freer the world of economy, borderless, and everybody need to compete each other on a fair base. If that's the case, we have to govern ourselves. That atmosphere is very important. That is happening probably across the world in a very slow way. Even in Korea, yes, it is happening. But we need to enforce even more if Korea to become a hub of new technology. Did I answer your question?
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 명지대학교 경제학과에 재학 중인 오반석입니다. 저는 세르지오 오샤 한국심 사장님께 질문을 드리고 싶습니다. 세르지오 오샤 사장님께서는 세브레의 Find New Road 캠페인을 언급하시며 혁신적인 생각과 접근법을 모색해야 된다고 하셨는데 저는 정확히 Find New Road 캠페인이 어떤 것인지 세르지오 오샤 사장님께 듣고 싶습니다.
Chevrolet is a global brand, and we have 103 years history worldwide. And we are trying to find a tagline that you define what the brand stands for. And we came with this Finding New Roads. We have launched this 6 months ago here in Korea. And last year, for example, we have an all-time record in 3 things. Volume sales. We sold 151,000 cars in Korea. Number 2, we have the highest market share, 90.8%. And our variable profit has increased as well. So there are different pillars that support our business. But the most fundamental one is to put the customers in the center for everything we do. And it's paying back. Even with all the difficulties, with all the challenges, we are finding our new roads. The same passion, we believe that should be brought to the labor front. And by the way, to Korea Inc. because we will need, with considering the wage and CBA that we are going to face, considering the past Supreme Court verdict, we will need to find a new way in doing business. If we keep doing business as usual, we will not be good. And not being good, it's not an option. But again, I had the chance to meet President Park last month at the Blue House. I raised some labor issues for her, but I remember the way I finished. I told her that we, General Motors, we are here in Korea, and we are here to stay. And her answer to me was, we, the Korean government, are here to support you. And I think that is the common understanding we needed to have. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, let me call upon Ms. Jung Sora from Kyunghee University again.
To Andre Nothomb, the president of Solvay Korea. My question is about the economic ecosystem that you have mentioned. As far as I know of, Singapore is known for having the largest number of R&D centers in East Asia. And so currently Singapore is an appealing destination for the foreign investors right now. And I think that Korea should benchmark them in order to determine whether it may be like attractive as Singapore. And so my question is, I'd like to know the significant difference between Singapore's economic ecosystem and Korea's, and your thoughts on how we can benchmark them.
Well, that's an interesting question, and happen to be able to answer you because the only other country where I ever worked was Singapore. So we have also R&D activities in Singapore, but we have R&D activities in Korea. So that means both can happen. Now, I would say you can benchmark Singapore. I remember in the 90s, Korea was trying to benchmark Switzerland. But that was not easy because the mountains don't have the same size. Now you are going to try to benchmark Singapore and the weather is so different. But actually, it's not wrong. There is a few similarities between Korea and Singapore. Is that when the country started in the 50s or 60s, they had nothing. Korea had nothing after the Korean War, and Singapore actually was a good harbor. But the government of Singapore at that time realized that that's all they had. And the only resource they have are their own people. And they realized that quite early and really pragmatic way. And I think that's one of those chances that Singapore has up till today, and they are so successful. They are pragmatic. They are technocrat government. They agree. They are very good at admitting that they got it wrong. That's something I was quite impressed in the country. When they did something wrong, the government recognizes very fast and admits publicly and changes the rules. And they change the rule maybe during the match, but everybody thinks that the new rule is much better than the old rule. So that's why it works. And I think this is one way of benchmarking Singapore would be to be pragmatic, and I think President Park, for that, I was quite impressed by her first year in the country. She has made promises during the campaign, which were maybe generous, but it's not possible. And today, she changed her mind. She changed some of the policies of, being nice to some parts of the population, which had good reasons for, but we don't have the money. We changed the rule, and everybody has to accept it. This is for the good of the country. And what I said earlier about the small and medium company is, in the past, the rule was support chaebol at all costs and nothing else. And that was a total failure of the Asian crisis, what at that time was IMF crisis. Chaebol, of course, are fundamental, but it's not enough. We need to support the other ones. And the pragmatic, it's probably much more difficult to be pragmatic here because you cannot create small and medium company overnight. And one thing I could face even in our company when we treat with small and medium company, they have huge willpower, they can work day and night and sometimes with no money and no salary. We can feel some people in startup company, they work just for passion. They don't have this question of the salary increase, they have no money. But they work day and night, but they lack the professionalism. And that's where I think we can suggest the Korean government to not only subsidize with money, but also subsidize with professional education. Even small companies can understand that they are small and the big partner will respect them, but they have to be a two-way street. So this kind of background support to small and medium company